Hey guys, how you going? I hope you're all going well. Okay, I had to come on and do this. This is just an extra video on top of what I normally do because today we had some drops, corrupt, controlled, enemies of the Republic. News, pretty much. Okay, the next one was how is blackmail used? Democrat Illinois State Representative Keith Farnham has resigned and was charged with possession of child pornography and has been accused of bragging at an online site about sexually molesting a 6-year-old girl. Democrat spokesperson for the Arkansas Democrat Public, Harold Moody Jr., was charged with distribution and possession of child pornography. Democrat Radnor Township Board of Commissioners member Philip R. resigned from his position after being charged with possession of child pornography and abusing children between 2 and 6 years old. Democratic activist and BLM organiser Charles Wade was arrested and charged with human trafficking and underage prostitution. Democratic Texas attorney and activist Mark Benavides was charged with having sex with a minor, including a child under 18, to have sex and compelling prostitution of at least 9 legal clients and possession of child pornography. He was found guilty on 6 counts of sex trafficking. Democratic Virginia delegate Joe Morrissey was indicted on charges connected to his relationship with a 17-year-old girl and was charged with supervisory indecent liberties with a minor, electronic solicitation of a minor, possession of child pornography and distribution of child pornography. Democratic Massachusetts Congressman Jerry Studs was censured by the House of Representatives after he admitted to an inappropriate relationship with a 17-year-old Paige. Democratic former mayor of Stillwater, New York, Rick Nelson, pled guilty to 5 counts of possession of child pornography of children less than 16 years of age. Democratic former mayor of Clayton, New York, Dale Kenyon, was indicted for sex acts against a teenager. Democratic former mayor of Hubbard, Ohio, Richard Keenan, was given a life sentence in jail for raping a 4-year-old girl. Democratic former mayor of Winston, Oregon, Keith Barrett, was arrested for setting up a meeting to have relations with a 14-year-old girl who turned out to be a police officer. Democratic former mayor of Randolph, Nebraska, Dwayne L. Schutt, was arrested and charged with 4 counts of felony third-degree sexual assault of a child and 1 count of intentional child abuse. Democratic former mayor of Dawson, Georgia, Christopher Wright, was indicted on the charges of aggravated child molestation, aggravated sodomy, rape, child molestation, and statutory rape of an 11-year-old boy and a 12-year-old girl. Democratic former mayor of Stockton, California, Anthony Silva, was charged with providing alcohol to young adults during a game of strip poker that included a 16-year-old boy at a camp for underprivileged children run by the mayor. Democratic former mayor of Millbrook, New York, Donald Briggs, was arrested and charged with inappropriate sexual contact with a person younger than 17. Democratic Party leader for Victoria County, Texas, Stephen Jabbour, pled guilty to possession and receiving over 500,000 child pornography images. Democratic activist and fundraiser Terrence Bean was arrested on charge of sodomy and sex abuse in a case involving a 15-year-old boy, and when the alleged victim declined to testify, the judge dismissed the case. Democratic Party chairman for Davidson County, Tennessee, Rodney Mullen, resigned amid child pornography allegations. Democratic activist Andrew Douglas Reed pleaded guilty to multiple counts of second-degree sexual exploitation of a minor for producing child pornography. Democratic official from Terre Haute, I hope that's how it's said, sorry guys, Indiana, David Roberts, was sentenced to federal prison for producing and possessing child pornography, including placing hidden cameras in the bedrooms and bathrooms at a home where he shared with 2 minor female victims. And as with these posts, you start from the bottom one and you go up. So the next one would be here. You can read by the numbers at the top of the posts. This one's next, this one. If I can click on it. No, okay. Democratic California Congressman Tony Cardenas, sorry if I'm pronouncing these wrong, guys, is being sued in LA County for allegedly sexually abusing a 16-year-old girl. Democratic aide to Senator Barbara Boxer Jeff Rosado pled guilty to charges of trading in child pornography. Democratic Alaskan State Representative Dean Westlake resigned from his seat after the media published a report alleging he fathered a child with a 16-year-old girl when he was 28. Democratic New Jersey State's Assemblyman Neil Cohen was convicted of possession and distribution of child pornography. Republican Tim Nolan, chairman of Donald Trump's presidential campaign in Kentucky, pled guilty to child sex trafficking, and on February the 11th, 2018, he was sentenced to serve 20 years in prison. Republican State Senator Ralph Shorty was indicted on 4 counts of human trafficking and child pornography. In November 2017, he pleaded guilty to 1 count of child sex trafficking in exchange for dropping the other charges. Republican anti-abortion activist Howard Scott Hildreth is a convicted child rapist in Florida. Republican County Commissioner David Swartz pleaded guilty to molesting 2 girls under the age of 11 and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Republican Judge Mark, I can't say that, Puzahanik pleaded no contest to fondling a 10-year-old girl and was sentenced to 10 years probation. Republican anti-abortion activist Nicholas Morency pleaded guilty to possessing child pornography on his computer and offering a bounty to anyone who murders an abortion doctor. Republican legislator Edison Misla Aldarondo was sentenced to 10 years in prison for raping his daughter between the ages of 9 and 17. Republican Mayor Philip Giordano is serving a 37-year sentence in federal prison for sexually abusing 8 and 10-year-old girls. Republican campaign consultant Tom Shortridge was sentenced to 3 years probation for taking nude photographs of a 15-year-old girl. Republican Senator Strom Thurmond, a noticeable racist, had sex with a 15-year-old black girl which produced a child. Republican pastor Mike Hintz, whom George W. Bush commended during the 2004 presidential campaign, surrendered to police after admitting to a sexual affair with a female juvenile. Republican legislator Peter Dibble pleaded no contest to having an inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old girl. Republican Congressman Don Buzz Lukens was found guilty of having sex with a female minor and sentenced to 1 month in jail. Republican fundraiser Richard A. Delguardio was found guilty of child porn charges and paying 2 teenage girls to pose for sexual photos. Republican activist Mark A. Grethen convicted on 6 counts of sex crimes involving children. Republican activist Randall David and Kenny pleaded guilty to attempted sexual assault on a child. Republican Congressman Dan Crane had sex with a female minor working as a congressional page. Republican activist and Christian Coalition leader Beverly Russell admitted to an incestuous relationship with his stepdaughter. Republican Congressman and anti-gay activist Robert Borman was charged with having sex with a 16-year-old boy he picked up at a gay bar. Republican Committee Chairman Jeffrey Paddy was arrested for distributing a video clip of a 5-year-old girl being raped. Republican activist Marty Glickman, aka Republican Marty, was taken into custody by Florida police on 4 counts of unlawful sexual activity with an underage girl and 1 count of delivering the drug LSD. Republican legislative aide Howard L. Brooks was charged with molesting a 12-year-old boy in possession of child pornography. Republican state candidate John Hathaway was accused of having sex with his 12-year-old babysitter and withdrew his candidacy after the allegations were reported in the media. Republican preacher Stephen White, who demanded a return to traditional values, was sentenced to jail after offering $20 to a 14-year-old boy for permission to perform oral sex on him. Republican talk show host John Matthews pleaded guilty to exposing his genitals to an 11-year-old girl. Republican anti-gay activist Earl Butch Kimmerling was sentenced to 40 years in prison for molesting an 8-year-old girl after he attempted to stop a gay couple from adopting her. Republican Party leader Paul Ingram pleaded guilty to 6 counts of raping his daughters and served 14 years in federal prison. Republican Election Board official Keith Cohen was sentenced to 2 years probation for soliciting sex over the internet from a 14-year-old girl. Republican politician Andrew Burr was charged with 2 counts of first-degree sodomy with a 13-year-old boy. Republican politician Keith Westmoreland was arrested on 7 felony counts of lewd and lascivious exhibition to girls under the age of 16, i.e. exposing himself to children. Republican anti-abortion activist John Allen Burt was charged with sexual misconduct involving a 15-year-old girl. Wow, this is a lot. Republican County Councilman Keola Childs pleads guilty to molesting a male child. Republican activist John Butler was charged with criminal sexual assault on a teenage girl. Republican candidate Richard Gardner admitted to molesting his 2 daughters. Republican councilman and former Marine Jack W. Gardner was convicted of molesting a 13-year-old girl. Republican County Commissioner Merrill Robert Barter pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual conduct and assault on a teenage boy. Republican City Councilman Fred C. Smeltzer Jr. pleaded no contest to raping a 15-year-old girl and served 6 months in prison. Republican activist Parker J. Benner pleaded guilty to possession of child pornography on his home computer and was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison and fined $18,000. Republican parole board officer and former Colorado state representative Larry Jack Schwartz was fired after child pornography was found in his possession. Republican strategist and Citadel Military College graduate, is that right? Citadel? Robin Vanderwall was convicted in Virginia on 5 counts of soliciting sex from boys and girls over the internet. Republican City Councilman Mark Harris, who is described as a good military man and churchgoer, was convicted of repeatedly having sex with an 11-year-old girl and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Republican businessman John Grunseth withdrew his candidacy for Minnesota governor after allegations surfaced that he went swimming in the nude with 4 underage girls, including his daughter. Republican director of the Young Republican Federation, Nicholas Elizondo, molested his 6-year-old daughter and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. And then Republican benefactor of conservative Christian groups, Richard A. Dazen Sr., was charged with rape for allegedly paying a 15-year-old girl for sex. Dazen, 62, who is married with grown children and several grandchildren, has allegedly told police that over the past decade he paid more than $1 million to have sex with a large number of young women. Democratic donor and billionaire Jeffrey Epstein ran an underage child sex brothel and was convicted of soliciting underage girls for prostitution. Democratic New York Congressman Anthony Weiner pled guilty to transferring obscene material to a minor as part of a plea agreement for sexting and sending Twitter DMs to underage girls as young as 15. Democratic donor, activist and Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein is being criminally prosecuted and civilly sued for years of sexual abuse that was well-known secret in Hollywood, including underage sexual activities with aspiring female actresses. Democratic activist and Me Too proponent Asia Argento settled a lawsuit for sexual harassment stemming from sexual activities with an underage actor. Democratic Mayor of Racine, Wisconsin, Gary Becker was convicted of attempted child seduction, child pornography, and other child sex crimes. Democratic Seattle Mayor Ed Murray resigned after multiple accusations of child sexual abuse were levied against him, including by family members. Democratic activist and aide to NYC Mayor de Blasio, Jacob Schwartz, was arrested on possession of 3,000 plus child pornographic images. Democratic activist and actor Russell Simmons was sued based on an allegation of sexual assault where he coerced an underage model for sex. Democratic Governor of Oregon, Neil Goldschmidt, after being caught by a newspaper, publicly admitted to having a past sexual relationship with a 13-year-old girl after the statute of limitations on the rape charges had expired. Democratic Illinois Congressman Mel Reynolds resigned from Congress after he was convicted of statutory rape of a 16-year-old campaign volunteer. Democratic New York Congressman Fred Richmond was arrested in Washington, D.C. for soliciting sex from a 16-year-old boy. Democratic activist, donor and director Roman Polanski fled the country after pleading guilty to statutory rape of a 13-year-old girl. Democrats and Hollywood actors still defend him to this day, including Whoopi Goldberg, Martin Scorsese, Woody Allen, David Lynch, Wim Wenders, Pedro Almodovar, Tilda Swinton, I haven't even heard of half these people, and Monica Bellucci. Democratic state senator from Alaska, George Jacko, was found guilty of sexual harassment of an underage legislative page. Democratic state representative candidate for Colorado, Andrew Myers, was convicted for possession of child pornography and enticing children. Democratic Illinois Congressman Gus Savage was investigated by the Democrat-controlled House Committee on Ethics for attempting to rape an underage female Peace Corps volunteer in Zaire. The committee concluded that while the events did occur, his apology was sufficient and took no further action. Democratic activist, donor and spokesperson for Subway, Jared Fogle, was convicted of distribution and receipt of child pornography and travelling to engage in illicit sexual conduct with a minor. Democratic State Department official Carl Kerry, under Hillary Clinton's State Department, was arrested on 10 counts of child porn possession. Democratic Maine Assistant Attorney General James Cameron was sentenced to just over 15 years in federal prison for 7 counts of child porn possession, receipt and transmission. Democratic State Department official Daniel Rosen, under Hillary Clinton's State Department, was arrested and charged with allegedly soliciting sex from a minor over the internet. Democratic State Department official James Cafferty pleaded guilty to 1 count of transportation of child pornography. Democratic radio host Bernie Ward pled guilty to 1 count of sending child pornography over the internet. Democratic Deputy Attorney General from California Raymond Liddy was arrested for possession of child pornography. Why did it take a political insider to finally confront China? A political outsider, which is the president. And I wanted to point out here that it's not just one side here. The deep state's on both sides, and a lot of these Republicans are also working together with the Democrats, and that's where you get that they're two sides of the same coin. I get you, I hear you, and yes they are, most of them, but then the outsider came in. And now he's disrupted all of their little plans that they had. So I'm trying to explain to the people who keep commenting at me that they're both sides of the same coin. I understand that, and most of them are. But you have a rogue one in now who was not part of this group. So, okay guys, I'll put the link down below for you. I will be back a bit later with another video, but I just had to get this one out because all of these people, how many are there? And this is just in America, as far as I can see. This is all around the world. Wait till we find out who. Oh, mate. Mate. Seriously. Anyway, this just gives you a hint at what we're looking at here. I think this is a very small amount of people, even though there's a lot of people in there. I still think it's only we haven't seen anything yet. So, okay guys, let me know what you think down below, and I will be back very shortly. Okay, bye.